lies the sea that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the moon.
Thank you, guys. That was wonderful. My talk title today is It's Never Too Late to Fall in Love with Your Life. It's the title of a book written by a young man named Waylon Lewis. He was raised in a Buddhist community in Boulder, Colorado. And he has some incredible things to share. But the title of the book was given to me by a friend, and I have been intrigued by the title ever since I got the book. And I thought we'd look at this a little closer this morning. It's never too late to fall in love with your life. I love my life. Unity has given me the opportunity to see life from a different perspective. The first half of my life, I was just going along to get along. That was then, and this is now. Having grown up in the Methodist Church, I came to Unity with some erroneous beliefs that at some level I knew were just not right. Unbeknownst to me, I have had a deep connection with the basic teachings of Jesus from a metaphysical perspective ever since I was a small child. Myrtle Fillmore spoke words of truth, capital T truth, to me as a child through her writing in Wee Wisdom that my sisters read to me daily. Those words of God's love were forever written on my heart. But I was hearing a different message on Sunday morning, and they just didn't mesh. One day I began to wake up and to question what I was being told to believe and what I was being asked to teach on Sunday morning in Sunday school with high schoolers. And at the time, I had 2 of my own children. I only have 2 children in that class. And I didn't want them or anybody else's children growing up with a skewed perspective as I had. So in order to teach them something that fit more with the truth of what I knew, I began to teach the Sunday schoolers from a little 12-step daily reader, teaching them the truth that I was remembering from my childhood. And basically it was just one thing. God is love. God is love. And that was the lesson. I began to see those erroneous teachings from a different perspective, and I wanted to know more. There had to be more than what I knew. There wasn't much in New Thought available in the Texas Panhandle at that time. I'm sorry to say there still isn't. But my curiosity had piqued, and I had to know more. I have learned that curiosity is a valuable spiritual tool. The dictionary defines curiosity as a strong desire to know or learn something, which is what brought me, and I dare say most of you, to Unity. Is it not? In my learning process of the last 40 years, I've come to a place of being in love with my life multiple times until something in the outer world got my focus and I got off track. My daughter refers to it as squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. And yeah, I paid attention to the squirrels and lost my focus. And I wandered in the desert. It wasn't always 40 days. It might have just been a day or two before I found that path. It's like I took a little detour from that path that I knew. And I got right back on track, back on my spiritual path. The really interesting aspect of that is that the spiritual path is one that is filled with myriad paths leading me back to where I belong. I know lots of you probably, maybe, can identify with wandering in the desert. But God is so loving as to not ever give up on one of us, not one of us. We are His creation. We are His beloved children. And He loves us just as we are. In researching the phrase, falling in love with your life, I was reminded that there's always a focus of our love to which we are drawn. Those of you who have spouses can identify with that. For me, it has been discovering something that I'm wildly passionate about. And it was easy to make time for those things, just like it was easy for Pete and Deb to make time for one another when they first fell in love. It was their focus. The first, for me, like I said, it's been discovering something that I'm wildly passionate about, and it was easy to make time for those things. The first one that I can recall was when Spirit guided me to Overeaters Anonymous. Health was my focus, and I discovered that I was wildly passionate about finding and maintaining a healthy lifestyle, which goes on today. I quickly fell in love with life, and I was learning to love myself. Oops. There's one of those things that my parents believed would show that I was conceited if I loved myself. And for heaven's sake, what would other people think if I loved myself? But Jesus, on the other hand, gave us 2 commandments. He said these were the most important of all. The first is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And the second is like unto that. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor. Here are the last 3 words. As yourself. Can't love another until we love ourselves. How many times have we heard that scripture found in Matthew 22, 38 and 39, spoken as if loving your neighbor was the only focus for us in that second commandment. Excuse me. The truth here is that we must love ourselves before we can fully love anyone else. I want to share a story of a woman that changed her life. And it's a story I think everybody in this room already knows. I believe that it was curiosity born out of desperation that led Charles and Myrtle Fillmore to that spiritual lecture given by E.B. Weeks in 1886. Myrtle was desperately ill with tuberculosis and malaria. And they didn't know where to turn because they had tried everything. And Myrtle was just sure that E.B. Weeks would have the answer for her. So they went to the lecture. And during the lecture, she heard from that man, "I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit illness." And it became her affirmation of health and wholeness. Myrtle had been told all her life that she would inherit tuberculosis and die from it. Everybody in her family that preceded her had already done that, and it was apparently they thought it was her turn. However, Myrtle's faith in God kept her curiosity alive, and she believed there was an answer and that she could find it. And as she walked out of the doors of that meeting, there was a new divine realization working in her, not only in her mind, but in every cell of her body. I am a beloved child of God, and therefore I do not inherit disease. For the next 2 years, Myrtle spent 8 hours a day in prayer, thanking God for her life and for her body, thanking every organ, every cell, every bodily system for the work that it had done to keep her alive and healthy and whole. Asking for forgiveness for any abuse that she might have caused her body responded to the power of prayer. Doctors could find no sign of illness, no tuberculosis, no malaria. This was the beginning of unity. It was her curiosity and her faith that led them there that evening. And not only was Myrtle Fillmore's life changed, so was ours. We wouldn't be gathered in this room this morning had she not been curious about what this man, E.B. Weeks, had to say. In those 2 years, she learned to love herself. She fell in love with her life. Through the power of love, she was able to forgive herself for everything that had been blocking the flow of spirit in and through her body. Maybe for the first time in her life, she understood what Jesus meant when he said, "Love your neighbor as yourself." And I believe that self-love is the most important component to loving your life. And here's the hard part. It means making friends with yourself. Making friends with yourself like you would a new neighbor, someone new who joins our community. Curious minds want to know, where did they come from? What are their interests? Do they have a family? On and on. I saw so much of that on Friday night. It was just awesome. Our wise women gathered for their meeting on Friday night, and there were several women there who had not participated in Wise Women over the years. And as I was just watching all that was going on in the room, it was just delightful to see them connecting and moving around and getting to know other people. It was unbelievable. It was inspiring to me. But have you ever asked yourself similar questions to those that you would to a new acquaintance? It's hard work to make friends with ourselves. Asking questions about the things that we're proud of, as well as the things that we're not so proud of. Things that we wouldn't want the whole world to know. It's difficult at best. However difficult it is necessary in order to love ourselves. The Bible tells us in 1 John 4:16, God is love. We could stop right there, but I like the rest of it. And those that abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. God is love. That's pretty simply stated. We can never be anywhere that God is not. God is all that is. God is everywhere present, omnipresent. I've had to change a lot of habits in my life that were keeping me stuck and blocking the flow of Spirit moving in and through me, allowing my light to shine. It's required forgiveness, letting go of things that no longer serve my highest good, looking at the things I felt guilty about or ashamed of, and grieving losses that were hiding back in a corner somewhere, waiting to be acknowledged and set free. What I know today is that my slate, may never be completely clean, and that's okay. There was a time that I couldn't be okay with that, because this is what had to happen before that could happen. Not so. Not so. The work is ongoing, and I love my life. And those things I've mentioned will pop back up again if I haven't cleared them completely. I love my life. More importantly, I love Linda, just as she is, warts and all, ready, willing, and able to continue the journey moving forward and upward. There's a quote from the Dalai Lama that I truly love. I resonate with it deeply. There are 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday. The other is called tomorrow. So today is the right day to love, believe, do, and mostly live. And I would add to that, today is the right day to love yourself, to believe in yourself, to do all that you're passionate about, and to love your life. Are you ready, willing, and able to continue the journey, ever moving forward and upward? My question to you, with my deepest love for each of you,